This morning I have the pleasure of interviewing Vera Parkes about her life, and this is being recorded for the benefit of family and myself and Helen as well. The date is the 27th of May 2005. Vera, thank you very much for agreeing to this interview. I know you're doing it very reluctantly.
Very reluctant.
But maybe you just tell us when you were born and where, and the name of your parents.
Okay, I was born on the 4th of March 1925 in Sydney, and my parents were Stuart Kirby and May Kirby.
And where did you have your primary education?
Well, started off kindergarten at Hornsby, because that's where we lived, and then came to this different part of Sydney, of course, and I went to Wiley Park primary school, and then I went to St George Girls High School, which was at Cogra.
Mm-hmm. What year did you finish your secondary education?
In second year, the end of second year.
Now, what year would that have been?
I have no idea, Peter. I need John.
Yes.
No.
Would it be, well, if you were born in 1925,
yes,
and you maybe went to school for 16 years, it would be 1941, had the war started?
That would be about it, I'd say, yes.
Something like that.
40 years.
Okay, and did you, oh, what about other members of the family? Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had two older brothers and an older sister, and then I came along, and then my sister Jill was after me.
Now, you've finished your secondary education.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, what employment did you
I became a dental nurse.
Oh.
Mm. And then when I was almost 18 and I knew I wanted to join the Air Force, I left the dental practice and I just worked for a very short time in the big office of Woolworths. They had a huge warehouse in Sydney, and I worked in the office of that part there.
Just before we leave your role as a dental nurse,
Mm-hmm.
And this is a long shot, would there be any amusing incidents that you recall?
I can actually, yes. I worked for two dentists. The second one was Norman T. Casely, I've never forgotten his name. And a man came in he was having great problems with his false teeth, and he had been told by the dentist who supplied them, it wasn't my dentist, and he said, no, don't, he put them in and he said, no, don't take them out. And the fellow took him literally and left the teeth in, and the gums had sort of grown down over the teeth. So we all had a good look at his mouth,
yes,
which was pretty bad,
yeah.
And he was sent off to hospital.
Yes.
We had to have him removed surgically. That's
Right.
one funny thing. I really, not many funny things about dentistry actually.
No.
But, except that in the first dentist I worked for, the steriliser wasn't an automatic one. And, you know, I was just very young and I used to forget to turn the jolly thing off, you know, so I burnt out a couple before I finally got round to remembering.
So wonder you kept your job.
It is, yes, well.
Now, let's move on now to what motivated you to enlist?
It sounded as if it would be good fun, and I had a brother who was in the Air Force, and he was a radar instructor and he was a Morse code. He had his own ham radio station and so on, and I thought it would be a good idea to go. But before that, before I joined up, in that interim time, I sort of helped make camouflage nets out of the showground in Sydney, and I joined what they call the NES, which was the National Emergency Service. I did that, just all waiting actually until I was old enough to go into the Air Force.
Yeah. Now, I'll ask you to show us the photograph of you in your Air Force.
Yes.
There is. Now, what are you? Are you an LAC or what?
Just no, an ACW.
An ACW.
Aircraft woman.
Aircraft woman. Very sexist.
Yes.
Thank you for that. So, this. What year was this when you joined the Air
It was
Force?
August 1943.
Yeah. Okay. And where would you? What postings did you?
Well, the first thing that happened, I went down to Victoria by train, and we trained at Ascot Vale, which was the big racecourse area down there, right near Flemington, and we did our training there, which was about 4 months of training doing Morse code, and you passed it. You had to pass that to a certain speed, and I passed out at 27 words a minute, which was considered to be quite good. I think I just had a natural ability to it, you know. And then I was shifted then to Richmond, New South Wales, and I stayed there because it was by that time the war was coming to an end virtually, and I stayed there all that time. A couple of postings came up, but they didn't go through with it. I think they could see that things were grinding to a halt virtually.
And what were your duties?
Well, I was a telegraphist, and we used to send and receive weather, and we used to be in contact with pilots. We used to give them the weather, mainly weather it was, details, and we had our signals office was cut into the side of the hill. It was actually turned out to be John's father's dairy farm. And we had a big teleprinter room, and then a very big room with all the telegraphists all sitting there, sending, receiving, and so on. And that's where I did virtually the rest of my time in the Air Force.
And how much of that time did you continue to use Morse?
The whole time.
Can you still do it?
Oh, well, I try very hard to, if I hear Morse, I try very hard to catch up with it, but the whole point is that you lose 1 or 2 letters and then you're gone. You can't go back, of course. So no, I'd say no.
Like you couldn't just tap out on the table, I am Vera, for me now.
Well, yes, I suppose I could.
Have a go.
Yeah, let me see. That's it.
Thank you, that's beautiful. Very good.
I hope there's no telegraphists going to listen to this. No, you do actually, it comes back to you, but you're not quick enough. That's the whole point.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were sending weather reports to pilots, and that was oral, was it?
No, that was still that was still Morse code.
Was it really? Yeah.
Yes, so obviously pilots or a member of their crew, that would be.
Yes.
And they'd be going on quite often up to New Guinea and so on, and they were quite lengthy weather reports they had to take, so they all used Morse code too at that stage of the game.
So that's 43 you enlisted, and the war ends on, do you remember the day that the war ended? Is there anything
I do actually. I was on leave for the first, which was the first? Was it the war in Europe or the war in Japan?
War in Europe.
War in Europe. I was actually on leave with my parents and Sister Jill at Coolangatta, Queensland, and I remember the news came out. We were actually at seeing a film, and the news was flashed on the screen, and everybody ran outside and went mad, you know, and that was that first one. And but the second one, of course, I was still in the Air Force.
Yes.
So I don't really remember a great deal about that.
You don't? No wild celebrations on your base?